Thank you for joining us for this week's message at Crosswind Church. If you have any questions about this message or about Crosswind Church, please visit us at www.crosswindchurch.net, or you can email us at info@crosswindchurch.net.
Well, good morning. My name is Jeremy, and I'm the pastor here, and I'm so thankful that you joined us for worship this morning. If you are a first-time guest with us, you are jumping right in the middle of a conversation that we've been having for a few weeks. And so what I want to do real quick is I want to see if we can just kind of bring you up to speed. But I want to point you to our church website, our church app. You can watch all of the messages that we've had up to this point. But essentially, here's what we said in our time together. We said that when Jesus came to this earth and died and rose from the grave, that he did so in order to start something that was brand new. And he encouraged us and commanded us as his followers to take the good news of the gospel and the things that he's commanded us and to tell other people about it. And so that caused a little bit of a quandary for the early church, because they had to kind of figure out what it was that Jesus had commanded us. And they made some very important decisions early on. They decided that we're going to unhitch ourselves from the Old Testament, 613 laws. Those are no longer applicable when it comes to the gospel. That's not what saves you. It's Jesus that saves you. But now we've got to figure out what Jesus commanded us to love God and love people, and what else did he command us to do? And so for the last few weeks, and for this week and two more, we're going to be looking at some things that Jesus commanded us not to do. 5 things that he commanded us not to do. Hence the N commandments. and what we've discovered so far is that when you hear these commandments for the first time, they come across as just a little bit like unrealistic. Like you hear them and you're just like, how can I do that? So Jesus would say things like, fear not. And you're like, yeah, right. There's a lot to be afraid of. So how can I fear not? And things like sin not, which was last week. And you go, how in the world can that be the case? And today, we're going to talk about the next N commandment. And I'm just full disclosure here. This one hits really close to home for me. This is my not that I struggle with. I really don't like it, but I think that with God's help we can overcome some things. Here's the not commandment for today. Worry not. Wow. See, initially you kind of push back from that and go, yeah, if you gave me a mic, Jeremy, and let me stand there and tell you all of the things that are going on in my life and what my future might look like you would tell me that I'm exempt from worry not. Like I don't have to worry about worry not. That's not something that I'm going to worry with. Right? My story is so unique that you would make me exempt from that. I just want to tell you why I worry and kind of one of the big things that I worry about. So when I was 18 months old, you guys, if you've been around for a while, you know this. When I was 18 months old, I was diagnosed with an immunodeficiency called chronic granulomatous disease. It means my body can't fight off bacteria and fungus like a normal healthy person. My immune system just doesn't work on that level, like at all. And so when I was born and diagnosed, they told my mom I wasn't supposed to live past the age of 5. And here I stand right now. And so that's awesome and that's good. But all of the medical research says this. I'm kind of a nerd, so I've read all of this. Like, here's what it says. Even with the best medical treatment, people with my condition, my disease, don't live past the age of 50. This month, I will turn 40. That means, anyway, every birthday that I have, that fact looms in the horizon. That I have a disease inside of me that one day will kill me. There's no cure, there's no getting around it. One day, it will take my life. And even with the best medical treatment, according to all of the research stuff, like 50, 10 more years, that's what I've got. And so it's kind of funny, I don't look forward to birthdays as much anymore. And I kind of struggle and wrestle with that. Every day, I wake up realizing that there's something inside of me that's going to kill me. And so I worry. I worry about my family, sure, and I worry about my kids. You want to know, selfishly, what I worry about the most? I worry about all the stuff I'm going to miss. Or all the stuff I might miss, right? Like, will I get to see grandbabies? Will I get to walk my daughters down the aisle or perform in a wedding? Like, one of the perks of being a pastor, right? Like, I worry about that. As a result, I worry about a lot of things. I worry about stuff that probably maybe you worry about, maybe you don't worry about, things that if I would tell you about them, they're silly, but worry runs all the way through my body about big things, about small things, and worrying is just kind of what it is that I do. As a result, I don't sleep well. As a result, I have high blood pressure. As a result, doctors have told me that I have ulcers. As a result, I snap at my wife and my kids and people that I care about the most. As a result, I withdraw sometimes from relationships. As a result, I tend to maybe not be very nice all the time. See, here's the thing that I'm learning is that worry affects so much of me. And we live in a society, let's just be honest, we live in a society that just cultivates worry. I mean, you worry about all sorts of things, right? You worry about the future, and you worry about your kids, and you worry about our country, and we'll talk about all of those things we worry in a minute. All you have to do is watch the news. The news will tell you plenty of things to worry about if you're not worried already. From terrorist attacks to climate change to what our country is going to look like. See, it doesn't matter which president you prefer over the other. One group is always concerned that guy's going to ruin the world, right? And so we worry about it. We fret about it. We worry all the time, and it affects all that we have. And so when we hear Jesus say, worry not, we go, yeah, right. Yeah, I can't just turn that switch off and stop worrying. And so what Jesus does for his followers in the first century, and what he's going to do for us today, is he's going to challenge us with a question. He's not going to ask it this way. We'll read his words in just a minute. But here's the question he's going to challenge us with. You ready? What has worry done for you? That's the question he's going to ask. Has worry made your life better? Has worry made you live longer? Has worry benefited those people that are around you? And how about this? Has worry changed your circumstances at all? What has worry done for you? So let's take a look into God's Word. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 6. This is early in the ministry of Jesus. He is speaking to a large group of people. This is one of his first, if not the most famous sermon that he preached, the Sermon on the Mount. And in it, he addresses this idea of worry. Chapter 6 of the Gospel of Matthew, beginning in verse 25. Jesus is talking here, and he says this, "Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes?" Now, a couple things that I want us to kind of understand about what Jesus is saying here. First thing is this. Worry is about the future. Worry is about tomorrow. He says what you will eat, what you will wear. He's pointing out something, that when we worry, we're not worrying about right now. We're worrying about what might happen tomorrow. You with me? This is so incredibly important, because what worry does is it takes tomorrow's possibilities and it drags them into the present. It takes tomorrow's possibilities and it drags them into the present. The second thing that he says is this: don't worry about your life. And we're going to pause on that statement right there. I just want you to remember it, store it away. We're going to come back to it later, okay? He then says about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear. Those are things that you don't need to worry about. Now, we may initially kind of struggle with that, because in the United States of America, we don't worry about what we're going to eat or what we're going to drink, do we? You can look around. We don't worry about what we're going to eat or what we're going to drink. I can remember a few years ago, in fact, it was before I moved here, I was having breakfast with some of the men from the church here, and we were praying about moving to Union City and all that, and they began to talk, these guys, they began to talk about going turkey hunting, and they were getting up in the morning before the sun came up, and it was this particular day, the wind was blowing, and it was sleeting. That means it's raining ice. It was dark, raining ice. They had to walk over a mile to get to the turkey blind that they were going to hunt out of. And then they didn't get to kill any turkeys. And as I'm sitting at the breakfast table, listening to them tell the story like it's a badge of honor, I go, guys, you don't have to do that. You can go to Walmart and buy a turkey. It's not worth it. Stay in bed. Avoid the freezing rain. Go to Walmart, right? Like we're not concerned about that. Like we can leave here today and we can eat any number of things. We're not concerned about water. Water is plentiful where we are in the United States. We go buy bottles of water that we get out of our tap for free. That's amazing. We have so many resources. Those aren't the things that we worry about. But here's the thing. For the first century Jews, that was really important. They were concerned about what they're going to eat. They were concerned about what they're going to wear. Those things were not in as plentiful of supply as maybe they are today. And so Jesus is pointing out some things that they're worried about. He could just as easily say, don't worry about fill in the blank that you worry about. Don't worry about whether or not there's going to be another terror attack tomorrow. Don't worry about whether or not your kids are going to get into the good school. Don't worry about what might happen in the future. Worry is always about tomorrow. And Jesus says, don't do that. And then he asks this really, really, really important question that we all understand intellectually, we don't understand emotionally. He says this, is not life more than your worries? Isn't life more than your worries? See, this is one of those things we understand. When you're talking about my life, yeah, I get it, right? There are certain times that we understand this culturally, like when a natural disaster hits, like the hurricane in Texas, and someone that's close to you passes away, and all of a sudden all those things that you worried about, right, the stuff and the possessions and the bank accounts and all that doesn't matter, and you sacrifice and you give up so that you can help other people in other places, or so that you can spend more time with your family, then you go, yeah, I get it. My life is more than the things that I worry about. The problem is that we often equate our life with our worries. This is a big concept. We equate our worries, those things that we're concerned about tomorrow, we equate those with our life. And as a result, we go from being concerned about tomorrow to catastrophizing that the world is going to come to an end tomorrow. Let me give you an example. When I was in middle school, I surprisingly found a girl that liked me and wanted to be my girlfriend. Still boggles my mind. And so we were in middle school. We were in like the 8th grade, so we were 12, 13 years old. And so like we would hang out at school and we would talk on the phone. Because we didn't have text messaging and that kind of stuff. So we talked on the phone, and that was about it. Well, every one of my friends, and I say that's probably not true, but a large number of people in our school that had girlfriends or boyfriends, their parents would do this thing for them. They would allow them to kind of date before they could drive and that kind of stuff. So what they would do is they would take, teenage son to the movie theater in town and drop him off. And then the girl's parents would take her to the movie theater and drop them off, and they'd meet together, and they'd eat popcorn and sneak into R-rated movies. That was what people did when we were in middle school, okay? Now, I remember this girl kind of putting some pressure on me. She had other boyfriends. I was still relatively new to the game. And so she kind of put some pressure on me. We need to go on a date. We need to go to the movies. We need to go on a date. We need to go to the movies. Now I'm 13 years old. Okay, I got it. Like, what I should have said was, I know that my parents are going to go for that. My parents are kind of protective. I don't know that they're going to go for it. That's what I should have said. What I did say was, oh, yeah. Right. So I remember I go into my mom's bedroom and I go, Mom, you know that I got this girlfriend. And she's like, yes, I know that you got this girlfriend. Okay, listen, she wants to go to the movies with me. And my mom's response was, oh, that's awesome. Dad and I have been wanting to go to the movies for a little while. I was like, no. I don't think you understand. You see, like that's not what we're aiming for. Like we kind of want to go, and what you do, here's your role. You just drop me off, and then you go away. You could go to dinner. Go on a date yourself, just not there. And then you come back later and pick me up. And she, without missing a beat, looked at me dead. I was like, that's not going to happen. And I lost my mind. See, I was so concerned that this girl might think something negative about me or my family. I was so worried about how I perceived in the broader culture of Hopkinsville Middle School. Like the conversations would begin, and people would think that I'm a little bit weird, and it became such a big deal that my life was on the line. And I can remember going into my bedroom Not proud of this. Going into my bedroom and flinging myself on the bed and weeping big giant crocodile tears and going, you're ruining my life. Come on. That's a silly example, but we all do that, don't we? We equate our worries with our life. Well, Jesus just reminds us of in this verse. Guys, your life is bigger than the sum of your worries. Right? So stop it. He continues on. He says something that just doesn't seem to make any sense. Verse 26, he says this. Look at the birds of the air. They were outside. Maybe he pointed, I don't know. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Let me tell you what he's saying here. The birds, they don't work, and God takes care of them. So you don't have to work, and God will take care of you. See y'all later. It's not the same. What he's pointing out here is two things. We have two major advantages over the birds. The birds don't sow or reap. We do. The birds have no ability to anticipate the future. We do. That's an advantage that we have. So his point is this. Look, the birds, they have no ability to anticipate what's coming. They have no ability to prepare. They have no ability to put in work today so that they can reap the benefit of it tomorrow and as a result alleviate their worry. They don't have the ability to do that, but you do. Let me translate it for us. What he's saying is this. Don't not study for a test, claim this verse, and then walk into your classroom and take an exam unprepared. You will fail. He's not saying that you shouldn't work today so that you can store up and have food for tomorrow. That's not what he's getting at. What he's saying is this. We are better than, have an advantage over the birds. In the fact that we sow and reap. So in other words, sow and reap, sow and reap, sow and reap, and trust God with what's going to happen tomorrow. Do everything you can to prepare today. And trust God what's going to happen tomorrow. The other thing that he says is this. Are we not much more valuable than birds? I think sometimes we forget that. That you and I as human beings, we're made in the image of God. We're image bearers of the God of the universe. He, as a result, cares deeply about us. We have immeasurable worth. And so his point is this. Look, if God takes care of the birds, who are birds, you are much more valuable than that. You've been given the ability to sow and reap. Listen, if the birds can handle it, so can God. He's equipped you to do this very thing. Verse 27, he says this. Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? That's not true. In fact, scientific studies say the exact opposite of that. Worry causes us to shorten our lives. We can read study after study after study. But in essence, here's the question that we asked at the beginning. What has worry done for you? Has it helped any? Let me give you an example. In my role as a pastor, I get to talk to folks all the time who are having medical issues. I get to pray with them, all sorts of things. And I'm so thankful to get to do that. And every now and then you have someone that the doctor finds something that's a little bit abnormal, or there's a spot here, or a blood test didn't come back, and it could be something that's life-threatening. It could be cancer. It could be heart disease, one of those things. And so they'll bring this patient in, this person that I know, they'll bring them in. This happens all the time, on like a Thursday or Friday. And they'll perform the tests necessary to diagnose their problem. And then they'll look at this patient and they'll go, and we'll get back with you sometime next week. And I talk to those folks, and you want to know what they do? It's the same thing I do. All weekend long, they fret about what's going to happen with those tests, don't they? Oh, what if it's positive? Oh, how will we ever do? Right? What if, how will, right? We know those statements, what ifs and howls, we know those, right? The thing that I want to point out is this. Their worrying doesn't change the test results at all. Their worrying doesn't make the blood work transform in the tube. Their worry doesn't do anything. Worry cannot change tomorrow. Worry only hurts you today. By the way, you can't add an hour to your life. You can't add an inch to your stature. Worry doesn't do anything. He continues with another example. And why do you worry about clothes? Is verse 28. See how the flowers of the field grow? Because they do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown in the fire, will he much more clothe you, you of little faith? Now here's the key. So he's already talked about birds, now he's going to talk about grass, right? And as he's talking about it, I imagine, I'm not certain, I'm pretty certain, that as he's talking to the people that are there, it kind of becomes humorous. Like he's comparing me to birds, he's comparing me to grass, and what he's saying is so intuitive. Like I get it, like I understand, oh my goodness, yeah, how can I be so dense? And by the time he gets to the end, he makes this statement that sometimes we view as kind of harsh or pointed or accusatory. He goes, you little thing. But there's something happening here in Greek that we miss. Jesus takes two words that nowhere else in Greek literature go together, and he puts them together. And I think he does it because he's saying this kind of tongue-in-cheek. He's saying this kind of in a joking way. Literally, if we were translating straight from the Greek, he would say, you little faithers, you. If we were to put it in I was trying to figure out what we would say in the 21st century. Now imagine Jesus looking at it and going, you warrior McWarrigans. Right? It's funny. They laugh. I imagine when Jesus said this, they chuckled. Right? Because what he's doing is he's kind of poking at them. Listen. You're more valuable than birds. Yeah, then why are you worrying? You're more valuable than grass. Yeah, then why are you worrying? You little faithers. Right? Then he starts to tell us. He starts to give us the alternative. Verse 31. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? So he basically says, stop worrying, and he goes right to the future again, about the future. Stop worrying about what will we? What will we? What will we? Stop worrying about that. For the pagans, he said, verse 32, run after all these things. Pagans is not used in a negative or derogatory way here. Pagans just means everybody else. This is what everybody else would do. That's what they run after. And here's the key. Watch verse 32. And your heavenly Father knows that you need them. This is so big as he starts to move towards how we overcome worry. I just want to ask you this question. What if that statement that Jesus said is true? What if God does know that we need these things? What if God does know what we believe? Here's the next question. What if we believed that? How would that look? How would that transform the way that we think and the way that we live? If we woke up every morning knowing God has in mind all the things we need. And then here's the verse. Here's the verse that you've been waiting on. Verse 30. But seek first his kingdom, his righteousness. All these things will be given to you as well. Here's how we do it. Ready? This is what Jesus is saying to his people right now. It's what he's saying to us. You worry about my kingdom. I worry about yours. That's what Jesus is saying. You worry about my kingdom. And I'll worry about yours. When you feel the need to worry, what I need you to do is I need you to engage with me in what I'm doing in your world today. When you feel worried about tomorrow, I need you to join me in working today. You worry about my kingdom. I worry about yours. It's remarkable, isn't it? All we have to do is be willing to just seek after God. That's easier said than done. Verse 34, he concludes it. He says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. And in this, he gives us a very useful tool. Let me ask you this question. What is it that you worry about? Just think about it in your head. It may be one thing, probably a dozen. Jesus takes all of those things that you're worried about, and He renames them. He renames them tomorrow. It's a reminder that worry is about what is in the future. Worry is about what is in the future. And when you are tempted to worry about what is tomorrow, engage in what God is doing today. Do not worry about tomorrow, He says, for tomorrow will worry about itself. You ready for this? The thing that you're worried about tomorrow, when you get to tomorrow, it's still going to be there. Your worry today does nothing for your worry tomorrow. But when you show up in tomorrow, now you can take an active role in alleviating whatever obstacle it is that you were worried about, if it ever shows up. But it'll be there tomorrow for you to worry about. Tomorrow has enough worry, will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of his own. And what Jesus does in this passage is He asks us a really, really, really important question about who we're going to trust. Because that's what worry is, the absence of trust. For some of you guys, that's a reality check. Because if you are filled with worry, like this guy, it's rooted in a lack of trust. And that hurts me. Because that's not what I want it to be, but that's the truth. And what Jesus does for us in this passage is He kind of draws a line in the sand, and He says, here are your options. You can either trust God or you can trust worry. You can either trust God or you can trust worry. Here's where the concern comes. See, if you're willing to let go of those things that you're worried about, your concern is, what if God doesn't show up? What if God doesn't do what I want Him to do? What if God doesn't alleviate my suffering, my circumstances, whatever it may be? Like if God doesn't show up, and if I trust God, it might not work. And listen, I understand that. But let me ask you this question. What has worry done for you? If you've been trusting in worry, has it come through? Has it been on time? Has it alleviated your circumstances? No, it has not. See, I know some of you guys have pushed back from God because you've thought maybe He didn't come through for you in the way that you thought He would come through, and as a result, your trust is broken. I'm just telling you, if your options are trust God or trust worry, which is really rooted in trusting myself, worry never comes through. God always comes through. If you push back, I just want to encourage you. You need to rethink this. Because the alternative is crazy. The alternative just doesn't make any sense at all. Now, I want you to feel good about yourself. Because the early church, they struggled with this too. The early church, they didn't understand this. And they wrestled with this a little bit. So 30 years after Jesus rose from the dead, the Apostle Paul, who wrote a little over half of the New Testament, he would write a letter to a church in Philippi. It's called Philippians, is what we call the letter. And in chapter 4 of that letter, he reminds the Christians of the things that Jesus taught in Matthew chapter 6. And he says this, be anxious about nothing. Right? Worry about nothing. But in everything, with prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. This is so cool. What Paul is coming back, he's coming back with some more application for us. Listen. You're going to worry. It's natural. It brings up. But when you're tempted to worry about things that are going to happen tomorrow, put it aside and let God know about it. In any organization, be that a church, be that a business, be that a school, there are always folks that that want to complain and find stuff, wrong, whatever. And here's the thing. It's easy to get on social media and complain. There's no accountability, right? It's easy to complain to your friends about it. The thing is that social media and the people on social media, they can't fix what it is that you're yanging about. And your friends, often they can't fix what it is that you're gigging about. The only person or people that can fix the thing that you're gigging about are the owner of the business, right? Or are the leaders in the company. Like, that's it. And so, but the problem is we don't want to go and talk to those folks. Here's the thing that I want you to understand. When we find ourselves in circumstances that are less than desirable, it's natural for us to want to go talk to our worries and our what-ifs and our howls to all kinds of other people. The problem is that they can't solve the problem. And what Paul is reminding us of is, look, man, when you get anxious, put it aside. Go tell God. He's the one that knows what you need. He's the one that is going to act on your behalf. And then he says, the next verse, this is verse 7, chapter 4, verse 7, he says this, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Let me tell you why this is so good. He doesn't say that God will change your circumstances when you take your worry to Him. He says that God will give you a peace even in the midst of very difficult circumstances. And that's why this peace passes understanding. It doesn't make sense. The world is falling apart. And your kids are driving off the deep end, and your marriage is in shambles, and you're bankrupt, and you're struggling in all sorts of ways. Your circumstances are terrible, and yet nonetheless you have this peace from God. Where does that come from? That comes from God. It doesn't make sense. That peace causes you not to worry. That peace comes from a trust in a God that knows what I need. So don't worry. Don't worry. Because God knows what you need now. How can we know? How do we know for sure, right? That's a big question. Like, how do we know that God will come through? You just said, Jeremy, that God always comes through. How is it that we can be so sure? I told you to store something away in your memory earlier. The very first thing he says is, do not worry about your life. How can he say that? He could say that because he came and he died to give you life. He rose from the dead so that you might have life. You see, we can trust that God will show up in our tomorrows because he's already dealt with our biggest tomorrow. He's already dealt with it. He dealt with sin and death. Our biggest tomorrow is dealt with. And because he has been faithful, he will continue to be faithful. So here's the thing. What are you going to trust in? And if you decide today to trust God, then I'm telling you, you can walk and enter into a freedom and a peace that's not linked to your circumstances or your bank account or your relationship status on Facebook. But that's rooted in the work of Jesus Christ. And so today as we respond, what I would like for us to do, Matt and the band are going to come and they're going to lead us in a song. We've already sung the song today, I believe. And as we sing that song, I want us to just celebrate this truth. Celebrate this truth. That when we are tempted to worry about tomorrow, God instructs us to engage with Him today. Instead of worrying about tomorrow, engage with God today. Let Him know that you trust Him. Give to Him your worries and engage in His work today. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Isn't that freeing? Isn't that amazing? Can you imagine what the world would look like if we would practice that truth? Can you imagine, Jeremy? What would my house be like? What would my life be like if we were able to wrap our heads around this and make it a part of who we are? Do not worry about tomorrow. Let me pray. God, this is so easy to understand, so difficult to do. And as a guy that is a chronic worrier, it's not something that I'm proud of. A guy that struggles with this vice very much. God, I pray that you would help these truths to penetrate my heart. That I might learn about taking my worries to you. About releasing control of my worries to you. about focusing on your kingdom so that you can worry about mine. God, I'm baffled that you love me that much, but you do. And so, God, as we celebrate the freedom from worry that you've given us, I pray that the peace that transcends all understanding would fill every heart and every mind in this place today. That you might be honored, that you might be glorified, that the world might look at the peace we have and wonder how they can have that same peace. It only comes from Jesus. So God, we love you. We trust you. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.